The book of Genesis opens with one of the most famous lines ever written. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But as you keep reading, something really fascinating starts to happen. It feels like the story of creation is told not just once, but twice. So today, let's dig into this ancient literary puzzle. Right at the very start of the Bible, we run into what seem to be two totally different, and sometimes even conflicting, stories of creation sitting right next to each other. So how did that happen? And maybe more importantly, why? It's a question that has fascinated readers and scholars for, centuries. Okay, so let's jump right into this tale of two beginnings. We're going to look really closely at the literary clues. We'll explore why these accounts feel so different in their style, in their order of events, and even in how they talk about God. I like to think of it like this. That first chapter is like a wide-angle camera lens. It's showing us this majestic, orderly creation of the entire cosmos, unfolding over 7 days. But then, all of a sudden, the camera switches to a close-up lens, and it focuses in tightly on a garden, a single man, and the very personal drama of human relationships. This big shift in perspective, that's our first major clue. All right, let's really get into the evidence. To see the differences clearly, we have to put the key parts of each story right next to each other. It's only when you see them together that the unique character of each one just pops right out. So this table really lays out the core differences for us. Just look at the contrasts all the way down. The name for God, the cosmic scale versus the small scale, the method of creation, the order of events, the whole tone. Every single one of these is a clue pointing to a unique origin and a totally distinct message. Let's start with the name for God. In that first story, the text uses Elohim. It's a title that gives you a sense of a powerful, universal, kind of distant creator. But then, in the second story, the text switches it up to YHWH Elohim. YHWH is the personal covenant name of God, the name used in relationship with people. So that shift from a formal title to a personal name, it's huge. And the way God creates is completely different too. The first account is almost like a beautiful rhythmic chant. God just speaks and the universe happens. Let there be light. It's all done by divine command. But the second account, it's much more hands-on. It's earthy. God is like a potter, forming the man from dust, a gardener planting trees, even a surgeon building the woman from the man's side. Now here's a crucial point, and it's one of the most talked about differences: the actual sequence of events. In story number 1, humanity, male and female created together, is the grand finale. They show up after all the plants and animals are already here. But in the second story, the man is created first in a totally barren world. Then the garden is planted for him, the animals are formed to be his companions, and finally, the woman is created from him. The order is completely flipped. So these pretty big differences in style, names, and sequence, they all lead to the big question, why? Well, the most widely accepted answer isn't that the author was just being forgetful. It's that the final version of Genesis was carefully woven together from different, older written sources. This type of literary detective work has a name. It's called source criticism. Scholars use it to analyze a finished text, like Genesis, by looking for clues, just like the ones we've been seeing, to figure out the distinct voices and documents that an ancient editor compiled to create the book that we have in our hands today. And the main theory that came out of all this detective work is called the documentary hypothesis. It suggests that the first 5 books of the Bible are actually a composite work, skillfully edited together from at least 4 major older source documents. And each of these documents had its own unique history, its own style, and its own theological point of view. The first creation story, Genesis 1, that big cosmic one, it's thought to come from what scholars call the priestly source, or P for short. And you can almost feel its concerns: cosmic order, clear categories, and ritual. Its grand, structured style, which builds up to the Sabbath day of rest, really reflects the worldview of priests who were focused on worship and cosmic harmony. Then you have this second creation story from Genesis 2. This one is believed to come from an older source known as the Yahwist, or J. This writer is a master storyteller. They're not so much concerned with cosmic blueprints as they are with the intimate and often messy drama of God's relationship with people. This is the source that gives us that amazing image of God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. But the story doesn't end there. To really get what makes these accounts so special, we have to zoom out and look at the world they were written in. The ancient Israelites were living among other powerful cultures, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and each of them had their own dramatic creation myths. The contrast is just stark, especially when we look at a famous Babylonian myth called the Enuma Elish. In that story, humanity is basically created as an afterthought. Their only purpose? To be slaves, to do all the hard work so the gods could finally get some rest. When you put them side by side, the ideas in Genesis are absolutely revolutionary. The myths all around them were polytheistic, filled with gods who are born, who fight these violent battles for power, and who often act petty and flawed. Genesis comes along and presents this radical alternative. There is one sovereign God who exists before everything and creates the world with purpose and intention. And that difference flows right down to how they see humanity. In those other ancient myths, humans are made to be servants. But in Genesis, humanity is the absolute pinnacle of creation. They're made in the very image of God, and they're tasked with representing God's wise and caring rule over the earth. It's just a profound statement about human dignity and our purpose. Okay, so we've seen the differences, we've explored the possible sources, and we've looked at the bigger cultural world. So now let's bring it all back together. What is the real effect of putting these two very different accounts right next to each other at the very start of the Bible? And that brings us to the key question. Did the ancient editor who put these stories together just make a mistake and create a huge contradiction? Or was there a deeper, maybe even a more brilliant purpose at work here? I think most scholars today would lean toward the latter. You see, the genius of the final text is that it doesn't choose one story over the other. Instead, by placing them together, it creates this incredible theological tapestry. The majestic, cosmic story is interwoven with the personal, relational one. And what we get is a picture that's so much deeper and more complete than either one could ever be on its own. So, instead of a contradiction, what we actually get is this beautiful paradox. The God of the Bible is both. He is the all-powerful, transcendent sovereign of the universe, who can speak galaxies into being. And at the same time, he is the immanent, personal God, who kneels in the dirt to form a human being and walks with them in a garden. Both are true. In the end, these two stories aren't just an ancient explanation for how things got here. They're the opening statement in this long, profound conversation that runs through the entire Bible, a conversation about who God is and who we are in relation to God. By holding these two portraits together in tension, the text invites every single reader, even us today, into that very same conversation.